Raiden Shogun, the Electro Archon, is one of the 7 Archons that looks over Tivat. She is also known as the God of Eternity and thus only pursues eternity. After sibling hear about her in dialogue, we finally get to meet her for the first time in Chapter 2, Act 2. After seeing this cutscene for the first time, there are many questions and things to analyze. What's up with her arena? Why does her weapon switch from a sword to a polearm? What's up with her cool personality? And is Raiden Shogun just really misunderstood? This video, I'll try to analyze the cutscene to the best of my abilities and come up with possible speculations on theories on how Mihoyo may handle her character. Before I start, this is my first time ever doing a proper video on Genshin theories or analysis. I usually like looking into things and analyzing them and coming up with possible theories and speculations, especially when it comes to Genshin Impact. But I was never confident to put them into videos. Some of my analysis may be wrong, some may be right. It's all speculation. However, if you do enjoy this video, leave a like and feel free to subscribe. I do Genshin content on my channel that focuses on Archon Quest, character story quest, and Genshin events. If you're interested in those, why not check them out? But beyond that, let's get started with the analysis on Raiden Shogun. As I said before, this video will focus on the analysis of the cutscene that introduces Raiden Shogun. But before we go any further, here's the full cutscene that I recorded on one of my Archon Quest videos called Genshin Impact Archon Quest Stillness Sublimation of Shadow Part 1. Afterwards, I'll be looking into some of the notable stuff in this cutscene that may give us answers about Raiden Shogun. I don't think it matters if Aika is invading or not. This scene. Oh no.
Capable of using elemental energy without a fission. You are an exception, it appears. Exceptions. The enemy of eternity. You will be inlaid upon this statue.
What on earth? What's that the—
Shogun, who was that?
Seize him under the decree. Huh? Next time, I will strike twice.
So from the start, we are shown the power that is in an Archon. While we've seen Fenty and Zhongli, the Animal and Geo Archon respectively, we never saw them fully in action before. Zhongli being the oldest is now in retirement, and Fenty specifically states that he is the weakest Archon of the 7. So up until now, we never saw the power of an Archon, and this did not disappoint. From the beginning of the cutscene, we see her pull Tomo's vision, utilizing some sort of electricity. When the traveler jumps in with his electro power, takes Toma's vision, and tries to free him, she stops us. Then she slowly walks down towards us, materializing small platforms on the air to walk on in a style very similar to Kiana when she was the Hersher of the Void in Honkai Impact. Then she makes her first move, swinging her sword to break reality, trapping us in a different dimension. After the fight, she swings her weapon, striking us down with lightning, and after the dimension crumbles, she raises her sword ready to finish us off until Toma breaks free and draws a spear at her, causing her reflexes to kick in, deflecting the spear and launching us towards Toma. Since we never saw an Archon up until now, we could only assume that an Archon in their prime would be strong, but Raiden Shogun is in a different league compared to us. However, there are specific moments to point out that may prove interesting. During the cutscene and even in the Genshin Impact 2.0 trailer, we've always seen Raiden Shogun using a sword. However, leaks about her back then always stated that she is a polearm user. Now during the fight, we see her using a polearm, but we also see her using a sword in the cutscene, so what's up with that? There may be an explanation. During the cutscene before the fight, we see her draw a sword only to use it to send us to a different dimension. However, during the fight, we see her fight with a polearm, but more specifically, a naginata. A naginata is a traditional Japanese polearm weapon that appears to look similar to the European glaive or the Chinese guando. It consists of a long shaft and one blade that looks similar to a katana. This weapon is most iconic with the Onna Bugeisha, a type of female warrior in Japan. This may be the reason why the Raiden Shogun, a female god, would primarily use a naginata rather than the sword. Whenever we see her use a sword, it is during a cutscene where she breaks reality and the cutscene after the fight when she almost strikes us down. The move that she uses to strike us down is actually the Musuno Hitotachi, her ultimate skill. We only saw and heard this move during the cutscene in the Archon Quest Chapter 2 prologue. This was when Kazuo was talking about how his friend lost a duel and was given divine punishment by Raiden Shogun, ultimately resulting in his death. The phrase Musuno Hitotachi directly translates to one slash of no conception. However, the more important thing of note is the first word, Muso. Muso in Japanese swordsmanship means the ability to act calmly and naturally even in the face of danger. This brings a point I'll talk about next when it comes to Raiden Shogun. One last thing to note is that during the cutscene after the fight ends, her naginata disappears off screen as the dimension is crumbling down, and where she usually holds it is replaced by a sword, the very same sword that is used when she is about to use the Musuno Hitotachi on the traveler. The next thing that is very important to look at, and some people may have overlooked this, is her emotions, specifically her eyes. Throughout the entire cutscene, she appears to be almost emotionless, as if she has a cold exterior. The main point to look at that proves this is her eyes. She appears to have them half open. During the ceremony, she seems to feel no emotions whatsoever, constantly having her eyes half open. However, in the shot where she is in the dimension, we see her eyes open fully for the first time. We see it again after the fight when she strikes us with lightning. We also see it for the third time when Toma throws a spear at her and she deflects it. The last thing to note here is after the dimension crumbles, her eyes flicker as they stop glowing and revert to how it was before the traveler was pulled in. So, what's up with that? During the Genshin Impact 2.0 trailer, the update was called The Immovable God and the Eternal Euthymia. This was also the name for the Chapter 2 Act 1 Archon Quest. The main thing to look at is the word euthymia. Euthymia is a condition where someone lives without having mood disturbances, and this condition is commonly associated with bipolar disorder, a disorder that causes someone to have unusual shifts in mood. This pretty much describes Raiden Shogun as again, we see her having almost no emotions or mood swings. Not just that, but remember the word Muso? This would also explain why she would have no emotions when using that ultimate skill or even wielding a sword. It is highly possible that Raiden Shogun may have two different personalities, a cold, emotionless being that uses a sword in the overworld, and possibly a normal being that uses the naginata in the separate dimension. The arena in the different dimension where you fight the Electro Archon also has some symbolism, even though it may not be as huge. first thing to note is the arena platform that you stand on. It shows a symbol of Electro, but more importantly, Electro's skull. Triskel is a three-pronged shape that represents life, death, and rebirth. I'm not sure how a Triskel may represent eternity, since in my eyes, the circle of life is actually the opposite of eternity. Surrounding the platform are large ruined arches. These are actually torii, Japanese arches that will mark the entrance to a sacred place. They're most commonly seen in front of a Shinto shrine. It is possible that since this is a place created by the Electro Archon, there will be ruined torii, but the question of why they are ruined still remains. The last thing to look into the dimension is a giant red and black ball. It is known that giant ball is called the Red Moon, which is also known as the Blood Moon. In the Book of Joel, the Blood Moon usually signifies the beginning of the end. To be specific, it states, "The sun will turn to darkness and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes." Another reason behind the blood moon happening is when the full moon coincides with a full lunar eclipse, causing it to have a reddish appearance. This would mean that the red color comes from the diffusion of the sun's light into the earth's shadow. Now, this leads into the title of the second act of chapter 2, Stillness, Sublimation of Shadow. The key phrase here is sublimation of shadow, with one of the definitions of sublimation being purification or refinement. That begs the question, why would a shadow need to be purified? The idea behind the blood moon being in the arena may actually foreshadow a future event that will happen in the Electro Archon. It is possible that during the start of the Vision Hunt decree, the Electro Archon was corrupted somehow, causing it to have a cold, emotionless exterior. While I have been talking about the visual cutscenes itself, there are also some lines stated by the Raiden Shogun that may lead to future theories. As she's walking towards us, she states, "Capable of using elemental energy without a vision. You are an exception, it appears. Exceptions, the enemy of eternity." It is clear that Raiden Shogun knows we don't have a vision, since she calls us exceptions. But the question remains, why are we enemies to eternity? Visions are known as the gifts from the god to people who are worthy, giving them elemental powers. It is known one day that these people will ascend to Celestia and become divine beings. Keep in mind, the only way mortals can use elemental powers would be through visions. So the Raiden Shogun notices us using elemental powers without visions, she would easily assume that we may not be from Tivat. In addition to this, Zhongli stated that she is a god that pursues eternity and believes that visions only belong to the divine, causing the beginning of the Vision Hunt decree. Knowing this information, it is possible that she sees us as divine beings and therefore a threat to her placement of power. The next line she says is, "You will be inlaid upon this statue." This follows up on her previous statements, in which again, the whole reason behind the Vision Hunt decree is to possibly prevent people from becoming divine beings. Just like how visions are inlaid on statues, the traveler, who's just as much of a threat like these visions, will be inlaid as well. In this case, it would be some sort of imprisonment. After the fight, she states, "Seize him under the decree, and next time, I will strike twice." There isn't much to say for the first line, but my guess behind this line would be the fact that we don't have vision, so naturally the Vision Hunt decree will not affect us. Therefore, she may have to give a reason for her followers to not question her actions. It is possible that she wants us seized due to us being possible threats, which backs up her previous statements. The last line is actually a reference to a famous phrase, "Lightning never strikes the same place twice." This phrase is commonly used to reassure someone that a bad thing won't happen again. In this case, she's calling us lucky, stating that "I will strike twice," which is that we will not get lucky the next time. This kind of follows up with the previous line where she will take us out the next time we face her. With all this information, there are a few theories that comes to mind. I have mentioned small theories throughout this video, but this is where I will talk about the main theories that I came up with. The main theory is exactly what happened when the Vision Hunt decree started, and what may happen in the next Archon Quest. The Vision Hunt decree started 1 year ago before the beginning of this game. Zhongli stated that the reasoning behind the Vision Hunt decree is because Raiden Shogun believes that visions can only belong to divine beings. Knowing that visions can allow people to ascend to Celestia and reach divinity, it may be possible that Raiden Shogun sees them as a threat to her power. With this new cutscene where we see Raiden Shogun for the first time, It is possible that there was another reason behind the Vision Hunt decree, and we actually see it in the arena where we fight her. A bit of fun trivia is that when there was a leaked splash up of Raiden Shogun, the phrase that was on it stated, "Plane of Euthymia." It is possible that is the name of the dimension, once again, calling back to the word that described Raiden Shogun, Euthymia. In the plane of Euthymia, there is the blood moon in the background. Again, as was mentioned in the book of Joel, whenever the moon turns to a blood moon is when the terrible day of the Lord comes. The reason why this may be important is because something may have happened to the Raiden Shogun that causes her to be corrupted. It feels like it's a stretch, but there's a high chance of this corruption causing her to start the Vision Hunt decree. And if this is the case, my last theory, something that may happen in the future, would coincide with this. What may happen in the future is that just like Benteen Zhongli, Raiden Shogun will also have her gnosis taken. There are several signs that the Fatui Harbingers already made their way in Inazuma. In 1.1, we were introduced to Scaramouche, the rank 6 Fatui Harbinger, and we already know that he is a vagrant from Inazuma. Not just that, but dialogue with Hiragi Chisato hints that La Senora, the rank 8 Fatui Harbinger, is already in Inazuma. She states that her father, who leads the Kanju Commission, spoke to a woman with respect, and the only person he was speaking to in that matter would be the Electro Archon. So obviously the Electrognosis will be taken, but why is this significant? This goes back to my corruption theory, and the causeless corruption that causes her to be emotionless might be something related to her gnosis. This goes back to her using a katana. Now this is all speculation with no evidence to back it up, but what if she pulls her katana directly from her gnosis? And if this does end up being true, knowing that whenever she holds a sword, she is emotionless, that will point to her gnosis corruption, causing her to be emotionless. And in this case, the Raiden Shogun we see in the plane of Euthymia may have been the original Electro Archon before corruption 1 year ago. And once her gnosis is taken, she loses the power and the ability to use the Musono Hitotachi, but at the same time, regains her senses. That's what I meant when I said she may have been misunderstood, and it's possible that she wasn't always evil, but something happened 1 year ago that caused this change. It would be ironic since we haven't seen the drawbacks of a person losing their vision until Inazuma, so we would see a massive drawback for the first time when we see an Archon of Inazuma lose their gnosis. So, what do you guys think? Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Leave some of your opinions and theories in the comments. Again, this is my first time ever doing a proper analysis and theory video about a specific character and cutscene. If you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to see more Genshin content. I may do more theory videos in the future. This has been ACairconditioner signing out. Have a good one, guys.